Okay, guys, I'm sorry. I know. I'm a whole almost week late on this week's review for Insecure, but I have a good reason. I promise. I promise. So, it's been a little hectic. Mentally this week it was really rough for me. And we're winding down from classes. The semester is about to end next week, so some deadlines. Had to do some work crunches, trying to make sure I don't fall behind. And it was my birthday on Thursday, so I took a little bit of extra time. Even though with the quarantine can't do much, a friend did drop by some food and a cake, and yeah. So I was a good girl, though. I was a good girl. I had watched the show already and took notes. Okay, back on the 27th, and I had already recorded an episode of Hunter x Hunter for y'all. I just never posted it because life happened and I, opted for a nap. But, hey, we're growing. We're growth, okay? So, let's jump right into this, okay? So, this is it. I'm doing this right now as of Saturday, which is also another reason why it took me a minute to post it. So, I was watching Insecure through the Xfinity app because they had gave us some free stuff, I guess, during the quarantine, but then they took Insecure off. So that was also what took so long, is I didn't watch this until the 27th when I was able to get my hands on watching the newest episode because I had no way to stream it. So that was also what took forever. But don't worry. I now have a permanent source of how I'm going to watch it now so that we can continue on with the season as planned. And I don't know if you guys already heard, but yesterday they have gotten the green light to do season 5, so Insecure will be back, okay? I don't know if they said how many episodes this time, like if we're going to get additional 10 like season 4, but I hope so. I hope that means whatever they don't, whatever happens this season, we can keep going. I could have swore, though, that Issa Rae has said that season 4 was the last season. Am I wrong? Did I just make that up? I could have swore I've heard in her say that in multiple interviews, that season 4 was the last season of Insecure. Maybe because they weren't anticipating to get another season, and maybe they just wrote it that way. I don't know. But I'm not complaining. I'm happy. I want to see the squad return. Of course, I want to see all their other projects as well, but we know why we're here. I know everyone complains a lot about them being 30-minute episodes, but I think they pack just enough punch to get all the information across and get you and keep you interested, but not overdoing it. Sometimes when you watch 45-minute to an hour-long episodes, it kind of drags on, or you get those weird episodes where they're fillers because they don't really know what to do to move the storyline along. I'm glad that Insecure doesn't have that. Like, the first 2 episodes kind of just introduced it, and I think they've been doing a great job this season with just trying to lay out the full plot. And then in this episode, for episode 3, they just laid right into it. So, also another complaint I keep hearing from everyone is they feel like there's too many sex scenes in this show. And they think that the sex scenes are too gross. And I don't know about y'all, but I feel like that's a ridiculous complaint because all of us are 20-somethings to 30-somethings, which is featured on the show, and we have sex. So why are we acting like sex isn't this awkward, uncomfortable thing sometimes? So I think they're very realistic in the sense that sometimes you're not going to pick, you're not always going to get the ultra-hot guy or the ultra-hot girl, and you just, normal people with normal body types. I like that. I think Issa's scenes are a bit comedic, but I also like the fact that they paint her having good sex with this guy who's not considered the first pick, and that's good because that's real life. But yeah, I watched like 4 different reviews. I've talked about it with my friends, and I've taken all that into account just to see what some other people thought. And yeah, so let's get started. So this is my review of Insecure Season 4, Episode 3. Okay, so for this episode, we get an opening scene of Lawrence reciting a speech for work in the bathroom. So he's practicing. I'm not sure if it's his apartment or Condola's. I'm assuming it's his, where he is practicing giving a speech, I guess, because he wants to apply for a promotion. And then he's interrupted by Condola's scary ass alarm, which completely relatable, girl, because I have to set like several of them because I will sleep right through them. I know that everybody's like, why did she pick this crazy scary alarm? Because if it's too soft, I will just go to sleep. I will sleep right through it. I need the terrifying siren to wake me up, or I won't wake up. Maybe that's the city girl in me. I don't know. Um, we find out after they have a brief conversation. Oh, so he comes out the bathroom. They have a conversation about what they're going to do for Thanksgiving. He tries to invite her over for her friend with his friends. She declines, tells her that she's having a friendsgiving at her place, and she didn't invite him. He invites himself, but there's this weird awkwardness. And again, this is why I feel like keeps coming up in the show, is that people just don't practice good communication, because it was pretty clear that she didn't want him to come to the party, and I feel like she should have just said that, to be like, hey, I don't think this is a good idea, it's probably moving a little bit too soon, it's just keeping it real casual. But she did, and it comes up later, and I don't like that, but we'll get to it. So he ends up going to his job, and the meeting that he was supposed to have with the bosses, he finds out, is actually canceled, because I guess they are in some sort of financial crisis of possibly downsizing and laying people off, and or being bought out, I think. But he's not worried because he's the token black guy, which I'm pretty sure is the case, because I don't remember there being any other people of color. I think the girl that he was briefly dating last season was a woman of color, but she checked a different box, so they're gonna probably keep him because he's the only black one. And we find out at this time, we are now 2 months before the block party. So that's pretty interesting, because we're on episode 3. That means we have 1 more month to go. To be 4, and that means 6 more episodes, because it's supposed to be 10. So we're gonna find out at the block party and then post block party. So it's gonna be a mess. It was company changes and the investors are leaving. So in the next scene, him and his friend Chad are in the car, and Chad, we find out, is actually a real estate agent. Lawrence confesses to him that he's worried about, trying to get a promotion or possibly looking at other companies. And I think part of it is he was a bum for like 2 years, but also because I think he's trying to impress Condola, and he can tell that Condola is a woman who has high means and he wants to keep up with her. And, his friend Chad, in Chad's rude way, reminds him, don't be so hard on himself, because he hasn't sold the house in 4 months, but let him know, soak it in. You've come very far compared to where you were at the same time last year. So, you could do better. Don't worry about it, And he also makes a point about saying something about Bradley Cooper's fell off. Chad, I don't think you're watching television. I think Bradley Cooper is having an amazing life. He's still busy. So he ends up at a cafe. He bumps into Issa at the cafe, and which was odd because he made the last 2 times he's seen Issa. Hold on. So the next scene it cuts to is Lawrence sees Issa at a cafe, and he stops to talk to her, which I thought was interesting because the last 2 episodes he's kind of been shading her and short with her, he don't want to speak to her and calling it awkward. So the fact that he took the time to interrupt her to have a conversation was pretty telling. They're laughing and joking like they normally do. Everybody keeps saying that it's flirtatious and they still have chemistry. I think it's just because if you've known somebody, whether you dated or friends, and then you have a falling out, y'all still gonna have a bond. It might take time for you guys to stop doing that, and some people never do. I think that's just the way that they banter. They're just both goofy. And then Condola walks in and is asking them what's up. I think Issa picks up on immediately how this looks between the 2 of them, so she tries to leave, which was hilarious because she was like, oh, I ordered, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take over your spot, I ordered some food to go, and her food shows up and it's a sub, and they're like, Issa, for here, and this crazy heifer just takes the whole plate and leaves the restaurant. But anyway, yeah, so she leaves, but you see her look back while they're. Am I mixing up the episode? Yeah, so okay, I'm not mixing up the episode. So as she's leaving, she sees them hugging up and kissing on each other, and she kind of has this look. I don't want to say sadness, but it wasn't jealousy either. Just kind of like a conflicted feeling, which does end up coming up later. Sorry guys, I'm staring at this flower pot that someone bought me for my birthday. I think I need to put more water in it. Yeah, so the next scene is Issa and Molly at the grocery store. They're shopping for their supplies for Thanksgiving. And we find out here that Issa's parents are split up. I don't know if that was said earlier in the seasons, but I don't recall it. But she's dating a guy named Stanley. And they don't really care for him, I guess, her and her brother. They're like, that's their mama's man. And Molly says something about, like, her mama loves a project. And I was just like, ooh, okay. No one has mentioned that, but it comes back. So, we find out now that Molly and Andrew are in an exclusive relationship, which again, no one pointed out. I don't know why, because it's been important for the past 2 episodes. But yes, they are now in an exclusive relationship, which means that they were obviously able to work things off in a way that we didn't see. But apparently, they're gonna have a little thing the next episode because Andrew's telling her about herself or makes a comment. But anyway, so Molly asks Issa, should she invite Andrew for Thanksgiving? And Issa makes a really, like, mean comment, like, oh, well, don't you think that's too soon? You're gonna, like, become old Molly and scare him off? And it was like, ugh, Issa, like, I know y'all take digs at each other, and Molly's definitely wanting to start it, but that one seemed kind of mean to me. And I can see where she's coming from, and not necessarily in it being like an old Molly thing, but some people just get intimidated about things moving too fast sometimes, about inviting them to stuff. But I also understand, like, Molly's thing where it was like, we said we wanted to move forward in our relationship, we're trying to get to know each other, so the next step seems logical to invite this person to Thanksgiving. And I think she should have just asked him. I think she should have asked him, and I think she should have been clear because she didn't want to. I think if anything, her inviting him wouldn't have been the problem. I think it would have been how she invited Andrew, which would have caused the problem, because we all know Molly's not very good with words sometimes. And I think she would have stated things in a way that would have either come off like, I think she would have asked him, Andrew probably would have fell through or said or did something that she didn't like, and then she would have been passive aggressive about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, she would have said something like, oh, I would like if you came to Thanksgiving, like, if you want to come, you should let me know. And then Andrew would do something like he doesn't go because he opts to do something else. And then she gets in her feelings about it, even though it was never fully agreed that he was going to spend Thanksgiving with her, but Molly would still get her own feelings hurt in that way. We all been there, sis. I'm not judging you. I completely understand because you set your hopes up. Can't even say these things. You get high hopes for what is going to happen. You get excited to see this person, so when they don't come through, your feelings are hurt. But the two of them, like, go back and forth. Then Molly says something to, I don't know, about Issa being in a weird threesome between Condola and Lawrence, and then Issa says something about Molly being in a threesome with Dro, and and then Molly says something about, like, well, at least I wasn't fucking for, like, weed and toiletries, and, Issa at that point just stops her to be like, whoa, what is the matter with us? Why are we speaking to each other like this? Like, this is not okay. And they did something really mature where they acknowledge that they have had an off friendship for the last few months. And, they agree, like, this grocery trip isn't probably the best time right now, so we should just call it a day, and then we'll save it for Thanksgiving where we can, sit down and have a full chat. So, even though it is still tension when they left, the fact that they were able to acknowledge as friends that something was off was a healthy sign. So the next scene is Condola is setting up at her house for this party. Lawrence shows up in this very loud shirt, which I thought the shirt was cute. I just didn't think it was Lawrence. I I thought it was sweet that he was trying to rise up to the occasion of her friends because he knows that they are these more like bougie black people who have really great jobs with really great benefits. Um, and he wants to impress her. Like, say what you want, but I feel like there's still a sweetness there of a person like working, trying to. They want you to like them. There's something, I don't know, cute about that to me. And apparently the sink is broken. Lawrence tells her he can fix it, which this would be doing too much because you don't even see him climb under the sink because he knows what he's doing. He watches what looks like some generic video he found off YouTube called Plumbing for Players to get some instructions on how to fix this sink. So that would have been an indication to just leave it alone. But he's trying. So then the next scene is Molly showing up at her family's house, greeting her mom and her brothers, which I think her brothers are hilarious. I always have. Her and her mom have a quick discussion, and then it cuts to Issa and her brother heading to their house, only to find out that the ambulance is there, and they think it's their mom and they panic, but then they quickly stop when they realize it's not for her, it's for Stanley, who is her boyfriend. Apparently, Stanley has to be rushed to the ER because he slipped on some gravy. How? Why? I don't even want to know. But this is the few times like you see Issa and her brother actually getting along with one another, like not hostile, and they're just like, nah, we don't fuck with no adult twins. I ain't staying here, and they leave. So they end up spending Thanksgiving together. So then the next scene is Lawrence and Condola at her party, which I wrote they're being cute at her party. I thought they were. I thought they were very sweet. They looked like a cute couple together. It seemed like they were vibing. And then I think one of the lesbian couples, she makes a comment about like the company that Lawrence works for and how they're restructuring, which I thought was kind of tacky. Because you don't ask somebody that, especially when the first time y'all met, about what's going on with that, and make him uncomfortable, and, everyone's looking at him, he's like, oh, it's gonna, it'll be alright, I still have my job. And I liked it because Condola backed him up. She was like, it's okay, you'll land on your feet, whatever it is that you decide to do, it'll work out. Which you can see Lawrence is he just loves that. He loves the fact that Condola is this very encouraging, positive reinforcement person. And I don't want to say that he wasn't getting it from Issa, but I think he's just in awe of the way that Condola gives it to him so willingly, so publicly, without hesitation. So I think that it's got him a little starry-eyed. And then we cut back to Molly and her mama, which they end up having a conversation, and Andrew comes up. They show her a picture. They make their little jokes about him being Asian. But her mom reassures her that, Molly's like, I didn't want to invite him because I didn't want to scare him off. I thought that would be too much. And her mom's like, no, if he is the right one, then there won't be too much, And I thought that was the perfect answer. She chided her a bit about him being Asian, but I think it was all in jest. And compared to how we know this conversation could really go in real black homes, I thought it was cute. It touched on it. Her brother's an idiot, but it didn't go too far. And I think it was the reassurance that Molly needed to that she's not getting her friend from Issa right now, to let her know that she's moving in the right direction and she's making the right decisions. And that's true. I think that's why it sets Andrew apart, is that he seems to be willing to meet Molly where she is and call her out and has patience with her. And I think Molly, because she really wanted to work with him, has patience in a way that we haven't seen. So I think they're both cute. And also calls her brothers out. Like, don't worry, because look, the trash that your brothers are bringing home. Which I thought was a good point, because we always make fun of black women and the men that we choose, but no one ever says anything to the men. So I thought that was good on Mama's part. She gets it. Then Issa sends her a text message letting her know that she is going to be late because, of course, this dinner thing has now changed because she's eating with her brother. So we cut back to the dinner at Condola's place with Lawrence. and this is where things get a little crazy. Um, we find out that I might be mixing it up, but Condola. Oh, the lesbian couple is speaking to them and saying, asking Condola like tips on. They're talking about planning their wedding. Condola, I think, gives a really good recommendation for the museum as a good spot to host it. They said that she should plan it. She says, no, keep me far away as you can away from weddings. I never want to do that thing again, which takes Lawrence by surprise because, of course, he's really feeling Condola. I wouldn't say he's in love with her, but he's never been married. So he's also, it took him by surprise. But it's also understandable for Condola to feel that way because she has just gotten out of a divorce and her husband left her. So she might not stick to the never being married again, but it's understandable how in this moment in time that she feels away and she has no interest in talking about marriage anytime soon. So you have is it Robin Thede playing her very loud, obnoxious drunk friend, and Lawrence goes to get another drink. She follows him in the kitchen. She's like, I'm so glad that Condola has you and that she's met you. She's really needed someone since the split of her marriage. Something casual, somebody, to just help her move through this. Basically insinuating Lawrence is her rebound. And I guess Lawrence is the first guy she's taken seriously since they split up, which of course hurts Lawrence. His face completely drops because he's really interested in this woman. I mean, he's had sex with multiple women since Issa, and I think Condola is the second person he's tried to date since the girl at his job, which I don't even know if she still works there because they haven't shown her again. So I wonder what happened with that. So then it cuts to Issa and her brother eating dinner at a Mexican restaurant. And they're reminiscing about old Thanksgivings that in the past that they've had. And her brother talks about, Issa talks about how her family gave her a hard time, how she, asking her about how she's dating, who she's going to get married, all these things. And her brother opens up, well, at least you could even have those conversations because, her brother's gay. So just the overbearing, we gotta pray for everybody and assuming that his roommate was his boyfriend and just going out of their way to make him uncomfortable, which I am not a queer person of color myself, but I definitely see it hands on how discriminating Black people especially can be. And that frustrates me because I have friends and loved ones who are queer, but they get so much crap for that, just for being themselves. And her brother pointed out, like, we have a whole aunt that's messing with a married man, but nobody wants to bring that up. We can only talk about the gay person at the table, and you do. We talk about people having kids out of wedlock, sleeping with people that are already married, while being part of the church, people having a drug problem, all these different things, but somehow the biggest elephant in the room is always the queer person. It's just like, it's not necessary. Just mind your business. Just mind your business. And if you're going to say something, then you need to say something to that person over there. Don't bring it over here. And, he reveals that he's been going to therapy and trying to, unwork the garbage that his family has taught him and put him through. Learning to put himself first and not sacrificing for other people. I think these were all things that Issa needed to hear. I think it was all positive reinforcement that we as the viewer needed to hear because we're all transitioning. We're not in the same place, both mentally and physically and emotionally when we first started watching the series, and neither is Issa and any of the characters. And Issa ends up confiding in him about how she feels about Lawrence. And this is the part I think that has been the big standout that everyone's been talking about, is Issa reveals that she feels like she dated the potential in Lawrence and Condola is reaping all the benefits. And she's kind of jealous. And I know everybody's like, she cheated. She can't complain about that. She cheated. And even Issa herself is like, you know what, let me shut up. That's not my place to feel that. I can't make that complaint. And her brother's like, no, you have every right to feel however you feel. Your feelings are valid. And I think to a degree, her brother is right. I mean, Issa didn't cheat because she didn't love Lawrence or she was just being this reckless person. She cheated because all the things that she couldn't get Lawrence to see and to do, she found, or what she thought she was going to find in someone else. I think they grew apart. I think that Lawrence just was in his own bubble. And she just made a reckless decision because she just didn't want to feel like crap anymore. And I do understand that his growth is not necessarily associated with Condola or her. I think that his growth comes within, because that is, let's be real, no one can make you do anything. You have to do it because you want it. But it wasn't until Issa cheated that suddenly he wanted it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, he didn't have that same drive or that same, like, kick in the pants that he had while he's with Issa, and the way at which she said he was not paying for dinner, which I was like, was this before he was broke, or was this the entire part of our relationship? But I could see the same, like, gusto and excitement that he was giving to Condola, he hasn't given to her. And she's just like, well, 5 years, mate, come on now. So, we cut back to, I think at this point, Issa also texts Molly that she's running late, and then Molly sends back, like, do you, girl? Which, oh, God, people, we gotta learn how to read in between the lines in text messages. But Molly, you know, she was over it. Which I felt bad, because Molly took the pie out, and you could tell she really wanted to see Issa. I don't know if it was necessarily just because she wanted to hash it out, but just because she was looking forward to seeing her friend. But I also feel like Molly has also set this precedent, though, for herself of why Issa is now coming to bite her head off. Because, say what you want, I feel like the entire series, Molly has always taken digs at Issa, and Issa has always been the easy person to throw a punching bag at. I mean, to be her punching bag, and they've all taken jabs at Issa because Issa's been the joke. She's been the broke one. She's been the awkward one. She's been the tacky one. But now that she's putting her life together, they don't have that. And I think she's frustrated because Issa's not willing to just lay down and do whatever Molly says or go along with what she says and not check her. So I want this to work, but I also want Molly to have some more introspection to understand, like, this wasn't a overnight thing. Like, y'all been building up to this moment. But at the party, at her mom's house, her parents' house, they're getting ready to play a game of Taboo. They want Molly to be paired with her dad. Of course, she's not speaking to her father, so she was like, oh no, I'll keep score. The baby's like, but I wanted to keep score. And then his mom was like, you are going to keep score because your aunt's going to play, and just gives Molly this death stare. And her brother actually pulls her into the kitchen to be like, listen, you need to let this go. Like, all men are niggas at some point, and they mess up, and you need to learn to let people, forgive people. Mom forgave, and it happened to her. You have no right to be this angry. And I'm like, yes and no. I feel like part of it is they messed up is because Molly didn't find out till years later. So while everybody else was grieving with her, grieving around it, Molly didn't have that chance, which I think probably would have been a good life lesson to happen to her as a kid when it originally happened, or at least in her early 20s, because then she would have had a firmer grasp, I think, on how life works and people and disappointing you and all these things and all these really high expectations that she has that are unrealistic. I feel like would have been taken down a notch. She still has this very idyllic view of her life and of her parents, and her dad shattered that. And I know they're like, it was 10 years ago, it was 10 years ago, it was 10 years ago. But it was like, yeah, but it's new to me. It's new to me. So 10 years, it doesn't matter to me because I just found out. So how are you going to get upset at me about that? Yeah, I do think Molly could at least, pretend it for the sake of the party. And maybe that's me low-key being a person that's like, I hold grudges, bitch. But I don't know. I do think she needs to learn the lesson of forgiveness, that people do mess up and they do deserve second chances. But I also understand their frustration, because then the people that she picks that let her down, they fundamentally let her down. Like, Jerome wasn't just a guy she hooked up with. He was her childhood best friend that I felt like took advantage of her. And she didn't have like a real comeback because she wasn't married to him. I think the first dude she messed with, I forgot his name, the guy that he said that he messed around with a guy. I think that was the beginning of learning about Molly and her fact that she is a perfectionist, so she couldn't keep that guy. And then, like, with the characters of Jadena and the other dudes that she met, of being like, I want this to work out, but she wants it to happen in such a quick way because she sees herself doing certain things at a certain point in her life. And I think that is Molly's, like, big lesson that she has to learn, is that life isn't perfect. Life doesn't work like that. And a lot of times that's what I think stresses us out, especially as Black women, is because we set these really high, ridiculous standards for ourselves that are just not realistic. Not impossible, just unrealistic. And if you want to get that degree and you wanted to do it in 4 years, but it takes you 6, like, who cares? You still got it. You still got the degree. Why are you punishing yourself for that, you know? So yeah, I could understand both sides, and Molly does end up being the bigger person. She don't really speak to him, but she gives her dad a piece of pie to at least be, I guess, like, call a truce or something. So she's trying. Molly ends up canceling. I mean, Issa ends up canceling on her altogether after the dinner date with her brother, and he asks her if she's good with her and Molly. She's like, "Oh yeah, we're good." She lies, but as soon as he gets out the car, she cancels meeting up with her. Which, it sucks because, and that's I think also the downside of texting is, like, I think it sucked because it looked like they were just ignoring each other through text because you didn't see what their actual situation is, what they were doing. But I do think that both the things that both the scenarios that Issa and Molly were engaging in were very important things that they needed to be doing over the holidays. I think they were just somewhere else mentally. I think maybe if they said, instead of putting on that air of fakeness, to be like, "Hey sis, I just need some more time. Can we reschedule? I want to dedicate a day to this, but I just think I'm not in a mood to engage." Sometimes that helps. Gotta learn to use your words, man. Use your words. Okay, so I'm sorry I had skipped ahead, but yes, now we cut back to Condola. We cut back to Condola and Lawrence at the party. This is the part where we find out that Condola, in fact, does not want to get married again. This comes as a shock to him. The party ends. He stays to help her clean up, and they end up having a conversation. He asks her, is this just a hookup to you? Because that's what your friend made it sound like. Condola is emphatically denying that that is the case. He asks her if she still has feelings for her ex-husband. Which, to be real with you, she didn't say no. She said, "I'm not with him anymore. He left me." Which then she turns around and says, "Oh, well, if anybody should be worried, it should be me about you and Issa." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "Well, if Issa didn't cheat, would you guys have broken up?" Which to me was a stupid question, because it was like, well, of course they wouldn't have. And I got what her point was, basically saying, like, if she hadn't cheated, were you guys already having problems in your relationship that probably would have made you break up, but your cheating was the last straw? Or do you think you guys probably would have stayed together and worked it out? 9 times out of 10, that's probably what would have happened. But I feel like that could have also applied to her, because we don't know why her husband left her. We just know that he left. And I thought it was a cheap cop-out, and it was like, well, that's not the case now, because we are broken up, we are single, and we're speaking about each other. I think low-key Lawrence does still have feelings for Issa, because if he didn't, he wouldn't be so bothered by it, If it would be one thing if he was just kind of mad because she cheated on him, but he wouldn't, I think, work so hard to, like, it seems like he's trying to prove to himself and to Issa that he doesn't need Issa. And it's not necessary. We see that from after they broke up, Like, I think there was very much a difference between the way that they hooked up with people. Like, Issa, she was trying to mess with Daniel, and then she tried to make it with Nathan, which Nathan really fucked up. I think she really did like him. It was the real guy she wanted to give a chance with. Daniel was kind of trash. Like, he came through and helped her, but also made it a point to be like, I'm single and I can have sex because it's my apartment, and kept bringing women in. Like, I don't know. I feel like people are weird when they decide to flex their singleness. And I thought it was just kind of like a slap in the face. Like, why would I then want to pursue somebody and be friends with somebody that I keep hearing having sex with someone else? Like, that's weird. And not saying he didn't have the right to do it. I just feel like it was a tad bit disrespectful. Just a tad bit. I understand it was his place, but I thought it was a little heavy-handed. And then Nathan, I feel like is gonna come back later in the season because they haven't really hashed that out. But he also kicked her to the curb too, so that absolutely scared her because he was the first guy I think she was trying to get emotionally invested in, legitimately for the first time in a while. But anyway, yeah, back to their conversation. They have a whole thing about them hashing it out, and they're talking about how she says she doesn't want to get married again, and how their relationships have, fizzled out. And I like how the scene ends with the two of them on the opposite sides of the kitchen. I thought that was really shot beautifully. And, yeah, so then that's pretty much the end of the episode at that point. And later on in his apartment, you see him checking, you see Lawrence checking everybody's social media, including Issa's, and then he makes a comment on it, and then Case of the X starts playing, and then Issa comes out of here with the 3 dots ready to reply mad fast, and I don't know if y'all know, but we all know what that means when Case of the X starts playing, because that's very much a black anthem about cheating, and everyone's saying they're going to sleep together, and I don't want them to sleep together, because I'm like, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't move backwards. But even if they do, I don't see them getting back together. I don't think they need to get back together. I think they need to just leave each other alone. But I also feel like that was also the second reason why I was saying I didn't like Condola this episode, because that whole thing with them having that awkward moment could have been avoided, because even when they were cleaning up the kitchen, he was like, oh, thanks for inviting me. And she's like, I didn't invite you, you invited yourself. But it was a great night, and it was like, okay, but was that necessary? Because even when he first invited himself at the beginning, you could have just said he couldn't come. So that's like the second or third time Condola's kind of said things where I'm like, your delivery is kind of garbage. You're kind of nasty about it, and I don't like it. And her bougie ass friends are corny. Like, none of them were interesting. They're all, like, seem real uptight, and it's just like, this is a turn-off. I'll take me and my ghetto-ass friends. I don't want this. So they might cheat, yo. They might cheat. They might, and it's not even cheating, because him and Condola aren't together, but they're gonna do something very stupid tomorrow. I don't want it to happen, because I was hoping this friendship was gonna work. And it's just, it's nothing I can do. It's nothing I can do, y'all. But yeah, let me know what y'all think in the comments. Drop what did you think about this episode? What are some questions you want to see answered? What do you think is going to happen in tomorrow's episode? Do you think they're going to hook up? I know the preview, it showed Andrew telling Molly that he doesn't feel like, there's time for him in her life between her busy work schedule. So are they going to fix that? Is Molly going to say something stupid to make that worse? Because they only been dating for 1 episode. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm curious. I hope she don't do it, because I don't want Condola and Issa to have beef. I want Issa to come out the one in the right this time. Please, Issa, you need it. Do not do anything dumb. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got. Thank you so much for watching. I'm very sorry that this upload was so late. I will do my best tomorrow to shoot it as early as I can, so I can edit it and put it out the same day. But, yeah, and look out for my Hunter x Hunter review, hopefully if I can edit these both, they'll come out both today. So, yes, thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye.